I always knew that this was what I wanted to do since I was a kid. In fact, when I got hired, my mother gave me this piece of paper that it said, "What's your name? How old are you?" 5 years old. At the end, it said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I put cop.
Wow.
At 5.
What was it about it that you wanted to pursue that? Like helping people, or
I think
just
so.
that?
Yeah, and I'll share this, and this has been actually something that I have started to talk about publicly, and I never mentioned it on my own podcast that I was doing. But now here's a test, right? So I was a victim of abuse from 3 to 4 years old at the hands of a babysitter, and I think maybe that was a catalyst into wanting to be in law enforcement, not only to want to protect myself, but other people as well, and be the justice. I'm in therapy for it now, and I'm a huge advocate now openly for therapy for mental health treatment. And so I actually, through my quest for better mental health and getting through this situation, is to see it as a blessing. I take it, God set me out on a path, and if that's what had to happen for me to go into this line of work and thus be here, then it just is what it is.
God, that's got my hair standing.
Yeah.
That's
I have to
absolutely
see
phenomenal.
I don't forgive this person. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people live on forgiveness. I just accept the situation.
So you're
now.
not angry?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
I mean, there are moments of anger, right? I'm sitting in therapy,
Sure.
or whatever, but there are moments of anger. I'm not going to say I'm perfect and completely through it. I don't think you ever get through it. But to accept the situation and be grateful even. It's okay. I'm not broken. It wasn't my fault. And so I get to talk about it now and tell other people it's okay to talk about it. Nobody's going to judge you for it. And if they do, those aren't your people. I'm sure all of us have been through something, right, with whatever happened in our childhood. So at this point, I can look at it and go, okay, I'm accepting of it. And maybe that's why at 5 years old, I said I wanted to be a cop.
Dude, that's profound
Maybe.
and motivating and inspiring.
Thanks.
All in one.
I'm glad it can be instead of it just being a big old secret for me. I'm glad it can help maybe somebody. So I think that's what catapulted me into law enforcement. That honestly has been a dream come true, to be able to do this line of work. I have always told myself if there was a moment I stopped liking people, I stopped loving humanity, then I would find something else to do. I think it is so crucial these days to be in public service, whatever public service position it is, to still love humanity and still see the best in people, even if you have to be on your game and understand that maybe every situation is a moment for anybody to get hurt, still overall loving people. And so that's just how I've always tried to live, especially in this field. 2020, I had been in patrol for some years and enjoying it. I had a really bad call in the beginning of 2019 with a child, and it really ate at me for a while. And so, of course, that started to, do the thing that I think probably being in law enforcement does to people, where it just kind of eats at you for a while, gets you down. And so going into 2020, I just found myself in a position where I was getting angry with just life and frustrated and not the same chipper person I always was. I wasn't sleeping the same. I just wasn't as positive. I wasn't as nurturing. I was angry. I was in a bad mood a lot. And then, of course, 2020 in our world just took some different changes and some experience that I had working. It just really... I just was a new person, and it wasn't for a good reason. I just woke up so angry. I just saw our community completely divided. Not just our community, but the world as a community, our country primarily, just as a law enforcement and the community just totally divided. Just the division was just heartbreaking for me because I was no longer seen as a person. It's hard anyway to be in a uniform. People see the uniform first, right? So, but after that, it was like totally changed. You're not even a human being anymore. You're just a uniform.
What did that show up like when you were was it every call? People are pulling their phone out.
No.
Oh, look at that! Like what?
No,
Where did you feel it the most? The division.
I still, by and large, feel like most people are supportive, But of course, we don't go to everything where people are pro law enforcement. We go to the things where people might need help on their worst day, and that's not always the community that maybe wants to see us there. But, it just became, God, the hate between community and law enforcement was so just vivid and in your face. And I just was angry about it. I still did my job with a smile on my face, but just inside it was eating at me. And I found myself, what I said was the complaint committee. I was just my own complaint committee. And I kept saying, I wish they would do this and they should fix that and they should get this together. And one day, it was almost like an epiphany. I knew that this path wasn't working, but I didn't know how to snap out of it, so to speak. And instead of being this complaint committee, I woke up and it was like, boom, I'm the change committee. And you call it a download, and I love that terminology. It really was, I think, I have no other explanation,
Yeah.
a download from God.
100%. Can you tell me a little bit about what that download looked like? How did you recognize it? Was it an idea that you're like, this couldn't have come from me? Tell me a little bit about that.
It wasn't like, necessarily an overnight, right? It was kind of a process.
Okay.
I kind of woke up thinking, I have to make a change. I have to make a change. I can't live this way. I don't like the way that this feels every day. I'm a positive, loving, nurturing person. I have compassion and empathy, and I'm losing it by the minute. And so it was almost like, how do I fix this? I finally woke up almost just exhausted. I am exhausting myself. How do I fix this? How do we get back to a place where the community trusts us and, wants us there? And, whose responsibility is this anyway? Well, it's mine. It's not them or they, it's mine. I keep saying they should fix it. Well, what about me? Why don't I fix it? How do I fix it?
What can I do?
What can I do? And where are we breaking down? Why are we not understanding one another? Why are we just yelling and being violent? What is the catalyst for change here? It was like, okay, maybe connection is what we need. We need a deeper level of connection. How do we get that? So this wasn't like literally I just woke up one morning and it was there. The desire was there.
Okay, and then how did you foster that? Would you sit down and say, okay, I have the desire to change. It's 9 a.m. I'm going to sit there. My previous guest is an artist, and he describes that you don't wait for the feeling or you don't wait for the creative inspiration. You show up and you start doing something towards it, and the creative process will wake up in you. Did it look like that?
Yeah, slightly. And in fact, my PR manager told me on the phone the other day, we had a great conversation, and she said, you have to plant a seed every day. Whether it's an email or one step, checking something, doing something, applying for something, putting in for something, you have to plant a seed every day. And if you plant a flower seed, it's not going to bloom the next day. But if you plant one every day, in 2 months, you'll have a garden. And I just loved that analogy. So it was kind of that way, I guess, at the time. It was every day I was planting some type of seed, even if it was just mentally or emotionally. What's the next idea? What's the next idea? And talking to mentors, talking to other people that I trusted. And I had a mentor tell me, yeah, what about connect with a cop or something like that? Like, you're talking about connection. And then the discussion further went into, well, why is it just with an officer? Why are we all not working on a connect with someone else? Because if we're all doing this work, then imagine what can happen. And kind of a spiritual analogy I've always loved, and this kind of set my mind in that motion, was if I have one candle that's lit and I'm in a room of 100 people, let's say 1,000 people, and I'm the only candle that has a fire on it. If I take a moment and I come over to your wick, we all are holding candles, and I let my flame touch yours, all of a sudden you're lit too. And if you let your flames touch someone else's, and so forth and so on.
And then the more people that have it, the more people can touch it. And it starts
sudden,
with one person, and then it exponentially,
all of a sudden we're all
That's
lit.
A great, all
of a sudden we all have flames. And how to get your flame lit, I let mine touch you. I fire you up somehow. I inspire you somehow. I motivate you somehow. So connect really is about that. Connect, and I'll go into kind of the acronyms of connect, because I think this is important for people to realize. And I hope someday this helps, marriages, relationships with children, friendships, CEOs with their subordinates, whatever the case may be. But I thought, okay, how do we connect? How is it that we create this connection? It takes steps. There's a part to each of us that has to happen. So the C in connect stands for communication. This relationship will not survive if we're not communicating, period. I think that's the most primary thing. If you talk to anybody's marriage is failing, what's failing about it? We don't talk. We don't communicate at all. That's typically, the woman's perspective, right? He doesn't talk to me, But, honestly, if you're not talking to your kids and your kids aren't talking to you, you're not talking to your employees or employer, communication is key. The O stands for openness. If I'm not being open with you and you're not being open with me, just like I talked about some of my childhood traumas, I can't sit up here and preach connect and openness if I'm not being open. And I tried that for a while. I tried to not be as open as I probably should. It wasn't as authentic. This model just wasn't as authentic as I have told other people to make it. I can't do it if I'm not doing it.
That's an incredible way to make an environment safe, is to lead with
Vulnerability.
something. Yes, that's exactly right.
Being vulnerable, and I can allow for the community to feel like they can be open with me if I'm open first. It's up to me first. I'm the leader in this, right? So to be open, whether your spouse, I'm sure that's a complaint too, between marriages that are failing, relationships that are failing, whatever the relationship is. And this stands for if you stop and talk to a stranger at the gas station for 2 minutes, or you're talking to your spouse or your children. These pillars have to be engaged every single connection. So one of the N's, the first one stands for neutrality. I have to be neutral in this connection and conversation with you. I have to remain neutral. We're not going to agree on everything. That's okay. I have to be open and neutral to what it is that you're standing on and standing for. The next one, and I'm just enjoying this conversation with you so much that I'm just drawing blanks now.
That's all right.
I'm
The
just,
best part is
into
you've
it.
probably said these 50,000 times.
Yes.
It's all right.
So we're going to jump into the E until I
Neutrality,
can
nurturing.
Nurturing.
Yes.
Thank you. Neutrality and nurturing. Gosh. And that's right where it was. My own model. I'm drawing a blank because I'm
okay.
getting lost in this with you. So, but also too, to be nurturing, right? And look at you remembering my thing. That's great.
I put time in.
Neutrality and then nurturing. So if I'm not nurturing your side of things, and I mean, that speaks for itself. They have to be nurturing to a person's feelings. Again, even if you don't agree. Sometimes you just have to stop and listen. I'm really good at responding. I'm a public speaker. I talk. But when I'm having a conversation with someone, I have to stop and be quiet. And that's how I can be really respectful to their point of view and nurture and just be really open to what they have to say. Education is the E. If you aren't educating me and I'm not educating you on our perspectives through being open, through nurturing one another, through the communication, I have to sometimes, especially when speaking to men. Men are very black and white with your conversation. This is what happened and this is what I need. You know, you guys don't, we're all in that gray. We like to be in that gray. We can fluff and talk for 10 minutes and you're like, wait, what did you say? But I have to be educating you. Like, this is what I need from you. And it doesn't have to be necessarily this is what I need, but in the conversation, it's important to speak your mind and speak your voice. Be vulnerable, have an opinion, let the other person know what you need from them, or they're not going to know. Like, people are just not going to take a guess. And it has to go both ways. The C is for courage. This whole thing takes courage. It takes courage to
Sure
sit
does.
and be vulnerable and to be open. So that speaks for itself. And then, of course, transparency, the last one. We have to be transparent. If we're not having a good conversation, or we're not working, we're arguing, or you're a stranger on the street and I just stop and have a chit-chat conversation with you, especially in law enforcement, I got to be transparent. And I really feel that one came probably from my experiences in law enforcement. We have to be transparent. That's a huge thing in today's world. They want to know what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it, when we're doing it.
And then to maintain transparency, you better be integral as well.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's kind of crucial. That's an element, I don't know what the word I'm thinking of for integrity, integral, but that seems to be the foundation of everybody who's had success in life, is they're not lying, they're not cheating people, because if you do that, even if you're getting away with it, you're actually not getting away with it. It's hanging on your spirit. It's impacting, things just aren't lining up. It's slowing progress down. And so you can't be transparent without integrity.
I agree with that. And again, the mistake thing, right? People make mistakes. We all make mistakes. At the end of the day, you have to be able to say, I did the right things for the right reasons, even when no one was looking. And if I made a mistake, then I can recover from that by doing better tomorrow, by saying a prayer or saying whatever it is that works for you.
And atoning if it's needed. If there's something that needs to be fixed or somebody got hurt and, hey, man, I messed up. How can I make this right? I can't. All right, well, I'll do my best not to do it again. That's.
I love that you said that. And people in the 12-step programs for, alcoholism or narcotics, they have that step. I'm sorry for these things that I did, and I'm going to make it better.
Yeah.
And I love that step. And I don't think that should just be for people in 12-step. I think we should all do that.
For sure.
And just admit where we made mistakes and we messed up. That goes a long way for people. And even if you never talk to that person again because you screwed up so bad they don't want anything to do with you, if you own it and apologize it goes a long way for
For
that
sure.
person's
Humbly,
healing.
too. Not
Yeah.
with an excuse or putting it back on them subconsciously either. Just, here's what I did. It was really wrong. I'm going to try not to do it again. I'm sorry. And how can I make it right? You know,
Even if I can't make it right, go forth and conquer the rest of your life and know
go.
that I apologize, you know. And I hope that stands for something. I mean, for me, I've made these mistakes over and over again. Sometimes I feel like, gosh, what, you know, I got to fix this. I got to fix that. I'm human too. Some people are like, how do you do it all? You know, how do you keep it? Aren't you tired? Like, how nothing's perfect over here. You know, that's the being vulnerable and open part. It's far from perfect over here. You know, sometimes I can't sleep, and, you know, I've got stuff on my mind, and I cry in therapy and I look a blubbery mess or whatever the case may be. There's nothing perfect over here. This is a work in progress. We all are.
that's transparency.
It
there.
is huge.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I've hurt hearts and feelings, trust me. And I got to go back and say, I'm sorry too. You know, I'm so sorry for anything that I said or did that was wrong, the mistakes that I made. And that's okay to admit. It doesn't make me a less than person, and neither does the listener. If you're listening to this, go back and say sorry for your mistakes and just try to be better tomorrow. Don't do it a second time.
I love that.
Yeah.
Back to the law enforcement a little bit as we close it out. I'm curious. I believe that most people are good. And if you translate that to law enforcement, I believe most law enforcement officers are good, you know, whatever title you want to put in front of it. Do you agree with that? And
I do.
As I hope that the division is mending a few years later. I don't know if it is, but what message as a law enforcement officer would you want to give to the public that, hey, most of us are good, you know, like something like that?
My goal is for communities to see the human side of who we are. And it's up to me to show folks this is the human side of this uniform and this badge. If I wasn't in that uniform and we met on the street, we'd probably be friends. We'd probably say hi and hang out. Just because I show up in a set of clothes that maybe have a belief system or whatever your experience with other people in that uniform, please understand that. Give us a chance. When we come up, give us a chance.
I like that.
I give each person a chance. I don't care what you look like, where you're from, where you've lived, what you've done. It's not up to me to be the judge for that. I'm not the jury. I'm not the judge. I'm not God. I'm simply here to provide safety, security, and decency and professionalism. So I still love people, even the people that I deal with every day that maybe don't want me there. It's okay. You don't have to want me here. I'm still going to treat you with kindness and respect and decency. It's not up to me other than to just make sure that everybody's safe. Everything else isn't up to me.
I love that.
I still love people.
That's
I do.
awesome.
I still see the best in people, and maybe I'm
feel it.
naive. Sometimes it's naive. You know, it's not always supported the way that I operate, but that's okay. It's not. I'm not looking for approval. If somebody doesn't like it, they don't like the way I get down. That's okay. Don't follow me then. You know, or follow me in secret, and maybe something I say will inspire you. I never have to know. Whatever it is that you're working on, there are no limitations other than the ones that you put on yourself. Get out of your own way. You're the only thing in your way. So if you've got a goal, whatever crazy goal that it may sound like, don't give up on that goal.
I don't think people fail. I think they stop. There's a lot more achievable things with belief and milestones and little seeds planted every day that we can hit that people don't realize. So.
And that's what I tell people. Get up today. It's either day one or one day. Today's day one then. Make a list. Make a list of your goals. If that's the only thing you do today to plant that seed, make a list. These are my short-term goals. These are my long-term goals. And then tomorrow you need to sit down and write on each goal what steps need to be taken for that. So if your goal is to go back to school, what do I got to do to get myself back in school?
What's one thing I can do today, no matter how small?
That's it.
That's a thing too. Subconsciously pushing momentum out into the universe. It stuff starts stacking up.
Yes, sir. That's it. Again, you plant the seed today, you might have a flower in a month, right? And so if you plant 10 seeds today, in a month you'll have a whole garden. You know, and that book you have on the top, I love that you have it on the top, The Secret.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I have my Bible and my secret together. Mm-hmm. And The Secret, positive thinking, positive affirmations, telling you, if you tell a child that they're worthless and X, Y, and Z, they're going to be exactly those things because you've fed it to them. Your mind is not any different. So if you're having self-negative talk like that all the time, I can't do it, I'm not worth it, I'm not good enough, I'm not attractive enough, I'm too fat, whatever that is, you will be all of those things. because you've just fed it to your own mind. And your mind is the most powerful frequency of electricity on this planet. So you have to tell yourself, even if you're overweight, I'm healthy and I look great. And then tell yourself again tomorrow, I look fantastic.
And that's fantastic. A crucial element is even if you don't believe it at first, or even if the negative things come out and behind those positive affirmations and say, you're lying, it doesn't matter.
That's okay.
It will start having an impact.
That's
and,
it.
The first thing you have to do is be aware that you're thinking, like, oh, wow, I'm thinking. And then being aware that you're negative thinking, that took me a long, long time. So I know that can be a challenge for some.
Negative self-talk is easier. I can't do it. It's too hard. I'm not strong enough. I'm not big enough. We're good at that. The hard part is telling us the opposite. And so we have to feed our minds the opposite, the positive. And if it's easy, it's probably not worth it. If it's easy, it's not going to be anything that you want. You want it to be hard because then when you succeed, you're like, it's a reward. And same thing with children. Telling them all these things. You're fantastic. You're amazing. You're strong. You're smart. You can do this. Make a list. Have kids. Your kids make lists. What do you want to, if you can't write it for them. What are your goals this week? What are your goals this month? What do you want to be when you're an adult? What kind of steps can we take for each of these things to make this a reality for you? I just think kids are like the little seeds in the world that if we can start with these kids now, like those seeds, in 20 years when these kids are running the world, imagine what they'll be.
This amazing message of hope and inspiration, and you deserve everything coming to you. So
thanks, Trevor.
Thank you for coming on and sharing and getting vulnerable. I think this will help a lot of people.
I'm honored to be here. I think your podcast is going to do great things too. All the wonderful people that are coming on this show, doing great things in the world. And it's only up from here.
Yeah.
It's only up from here. We have work
really
to do.
Fun. Anybody can do this.
Anybody can. We have work to do.
Yep.
Light that candle on someone else so they can light someone else's. Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a comment. Show these guests some support. What part impacted you the most so we can make them feel really good. These are real stories and raw emotions. Thank you.